fascination with murderers. I mean, there's murderers throughout the years and decades. There have been murderers who have been very popular among the left. We know it because on this channel we've been covering the war in the Middle East, where whole societies committed to murder are celebrated by not just the left, but certainly the left in the West. But in the past couple of weeks, the left has found a new hero and has really taken its glorification of murder up a notch. Luigi Mangione allegedly murdered United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson 2 weeks ago, and since he's been captured, he's you know, you see pictures and posts on social media, people celebrating him, very, really sexualizing him. The whole anywhere you go on social media, this is what you see. Him being celebrated. If you look at any of those posts and the likes and retweets and reposts, really tell you a lot about where we are as a culture. It's another one of those sad moments where we find out where we are as a culture. And today we're going to talk about this case. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm joined by James Valiant. James, your initial thoughts on this?
Well, of course, this is nothing new. 61 years ago, Ayn Rand herself wrote and made a great speech called, you can find it in Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal, America's Persecuted Minority, Big Business. Her focus there was obviously on antitrust laws and the wicked imprisonment of business people because of their violation of non-objective laws, and that is persecution, no doubt. And government policy is, of course, a bigger indicator of where our culture has gone wrong. There's no doubt. But this was murder, and this was clearly ideological murder, in my view. This guy is going to have a hell of a time with any kind of psychological defense. Reading his manifesto and looking at the material from him, he came from a wealthy Maryland family. He had 2 degrees from UPenn, an Ivy League school. He was a complete nut ideologically, that's true, but he appears to have been perfectly sane. He didn't want to, he says, have any other collateral damage, so he targeted this guy. He got, a home manufactured ghost gun that he used for this. And then, of course, even when he made an outburst when he was arrested, he said that his arrest was an insult to the intelligence of the American people as it denied their lived experience. That was another big giveaway. In his manifesto, he said these, quote, parasites had it coming. So I don't buy that he was a nut, psychologically speaking, although he believed all kinds of nutty ideas. But still worse is the reaction of others. Senator Elizabeth Warren said that she wasn't trying to justify violence, but then went on to say, but people could only be pushed so far. AOC went so far as to say that many people regard the denial of an insurance claim as violence. As violence. Now, this is particularly ironic coming from politicians who are the ones doing the coercing, forcing people at the point of a gun and messing up the situation. It's the government that has caused medical prices to go out of control and created medical inflation for decades in my country, making simple medical procedures unaffordable to ordinary people. It is the government that has turned the insurance companies and doctors into semi-bureaucrats who have to deal with a Byzantine system so complex that, in fact, anyone who is a private health insurer is presumptively a hero in my mind. Now, are there Orrin Boyle, from Atlas Shrugged type businessmen in this area? For sure. But I do not presume that. And even Orrin Boyle did not deserve to get assassinated in the early parts of Atlas Shrugged. No, this guy was a hero. Brian Thompson, the head of United Healthcare, he is a hero because he's trying to enter this realm of mad Byzantine government created rules and still provide healthcare options to people. It's not as though Medicare in my country or Medi-Cal in my country don't deny claims. It's not as though people in socialized medicine dominated countries have all of their claims and desired medical treatments approved by the government, much less have to suffer through long waiting lines. But no, it's absolutely disgusting, the public reaction. The McDonald's where this guy was caught, there was a McDonald's employee who recognized him from a wanted picture. That McDonald's now has received hundreds of threats There are wanted posters being posted in New York City with CEO faces on them, wanted, like they're criminals. And the one that uses Brian Thompson's image, the CEO of United Healthcare, has a big X through it. And of course, the gushing of the sexualization. This guy is so good looking. It is repulsive. It is utterly repulsive to turn a vicious, evil murderer. But consider the guy's ideological background, too. I don't think this guy was in any way mentally deranged. He still had some moral capacity to think about collateral damage. He had the intelligence to pull this off as he did. And he's doing this for ideological reasons. In his manifesto, as I say, he said these parasites had it coming. Of course, he is the parasite if he thinks that anyone owes him medical care at all. Back before there was any kind of technology and medical treatment for such things, he would have simply suffered for the rest of his life, or if it was fatal, he would have died from it. But there's not even any indication that he was in that great a problem. What was it, about a year ago? His yoga instructor in Hawaii said that he was able to do all the yoga exercises without any problem. And the kinds of treatments that he was seeking, he was, for example, using a chakra sound healing bowl, a metal bowl where you run a thing on the inside and it makes a sound that's supposed to heal you. So this guy he's the victim of all kinds of philosophical corruption. But when you add this, it contradicts people's lived experience. That's pure subjectivism. That's my truth versus your truth. He doesn't have an argument. If he had an argument, he wouldn't say it denies my lived experience. He would actually give you a logical argument for his position. It is pure subjectivism combined with Bolshevik Marxism that thinks it's okay to kill these capitalist parasites, the capitalist parasites who actually give Americans healthcare options. Now, I myself have endured back pain. It's a back condition I've had for many years. And for the same treatment, I'm currently waiting for insurance approval to do the same treatment on my back pain that I got several years ago. And I'm in kind of limbo and in pain right now, for which I have to take medicine. Even if the insurance company denies my claim, do I have a right to that treatment? Do I have a right to someone providing me medical care? No. No, it is this guy, Luigi, who's the parasite who believes that somebody owes him medical care. And the zinger here is that the recent news this morning is that he wasn't even a client of United Healthcare. He wasn't even a client of United Healthcare. So if that's all true, and as a former prosecutor, I can tell you, this case is a no-brainer to win. I mean, they have DNA, fingerprints, witnesses, photographs. We have his outburst when he's arrested. It's a denial of our lived reality or whatever it is, our lived experience, whatever it is. It's an insult to the intelligence of the American people. No, this was ideologically motivated. It's the evil of socialism incarnate, truly. And the parasitism of socialism incarnate, as if this guy from a wealthy Maryland family who has an Ivy League education with 2 degrees and was worried, in his own words, that the pain might, quote, relegate him to a desk job for the rest of his life, end quote. Well, lots of people have health conditions like that. Buddy, you don't have a right to just kill healthcare executives if you think that it is, no. What it comes down to is profit and business. He hates capitalism. It would never have occurred to him to kill Elizabeth Warren or AOC, who, frankly, are more involved in the coercive nature of things. They're the parasites. They're the ones forcing people into situations. Real force, legal force. This guy was providing a voluntary option. I have a friend who was a client of United Healthcare, and this year his life was saved by United Healthcare. His lungs had to be drained with more than a lungful of fluid. He would have died. But
there's a picture of that. We're not going to share it, but yeah, I had dinner with that friend of yours a few weeks ago, and I heard that story. This was before the murder.
He would have likely died from it.
Yeah,
he would have likely died from it had not he had the fast, efficient care that private health insurance at least sometimes provides people in this country, despite the Byzantine government regulations, which are really the thing that make healthcare inaccessible to people. Now, I'm not saying, of course, that it's okay to kill politicians. I'm not saying it's, of course, okay to kill even an oil businessman. By no means. But this guy is a hero. This guy, the guy who got killed, Brian Thompson, is an absolute hero. He meant no violence to anyone. He provides healthcare options that save people's lives despite the Byzantine government regulations that are put on him. No. And so rather than thank people like that who are out there saving millions of lives and reducing the pain for millions of people, he targets him. Why? Because he's a CEO, because he's a businessman. No, this is anti-capitalism. This is just what Ayn Rand said. It is the attitude that has pervaded in my country for the last 80 or 100 years, where businessmen are the bad guys, no matter what, sight unseen. It's not some bureaucrat denying, say, your claim under socialized medicine or its equivalent in my country. It's not that. No, no. Not the people who are creating long waiting lines in socialist countries. It's not the people who are, in my country, driving up the cost of healthcare. No, no, no. It's that evil businessman. How dare he earn a living, have his own right to his own living by providing this service to other people. Truly evil in every sense that Ayn Rand means. It's predicated on his subjectivism, which is, and thorough mysticism, as you can see, using the chakra sound bowl and stuff. The guy's a thorough mystic and subjectivist. And he combines that, as I say, with a Bolshevik kind of Marxism that says it's okay to kill these capitalist parasites.
I want to get to his ideology in a second, but thank you, Race, for being a YouTube member for 11 months. Race says, happy birthday to me. I turned 34 years old today. Happy birthday from us as well. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says the left loves villains. Yes, and absolutely. As you mentioned, James, this guy, Brian Thompson, is a hero, and his murderer is a villain. And but the thing is, you said he's a complete nut ideologically. Now, I agree objectively his ideology is dangerous, but is it in terms of how popular, where in terms of its location in relation to like the Overton window, it seems like it's right there, quite in the middle. It's within the Overton window. I mean, from
Oh, yeah.
what I've read from the manifesto, this is not something that you wouldn't hear often, daily, if you consume mainstream media sources. You don't have to go to the far left to hear this kind of stuff. And it also doesn't seem like you have to go very far left to see people fawning over him and celebrating him.
That's what real. No, of course, I had a university education. I know it's now going on 40 years ago, but 40 years ago, and I got my degree in philosophy. I studied economics and history, and it is in those classes in the humanities and social sciences where these ideas of the CEO being a parasite, businessmen being villains, for responsible for every evil in the world, comes from. And it is very common. The widespread reaction shows just how common this attitude is. Now, I can still evaluate most people as believing in something totally detached from reality. And in many ways, this guy is totally detached from reality, obviously. That's all I meant by nutty. It's a widespread belief. It's a common belief. It's a belief that is obviously expressed in these wanted posters, in all of the fawning, the sexualized fawning over this evil monster. The sexualized fawning over this evil monster. If you do that, ladies and gentlemen, there is something wrong with you. It's cognitively wrong with you. It's ideologically wrong with you. You are not thinking through the actual context here in an ethical or even using basic economics kind of way. No, but look at the foundations of this nonsense from this guy. Like I say, he was a thoroughgoing subjectivist epistemologically, even a mystic, using chakra sound healing bowls and stuff like that. And more than that, he was, apparently he was well read in this kind of literature. He was reading up on the Unabomber, another killer. Another just evil killer, apparently someone he found fascinating for some reason. But that's what you get when you have environmentalist murderers, when you have anti-corporate murderers. The sympathy that you have displays for everyone how nobody really understands the issue of physical force and coercion. How it's really only we objectivists who truly understand what a right is, What a right is not the moral and immoral use of physical force. And it is government. It is government that is the main culprit here. They are the ones actually forcing people around. They're not providing voluntarily chosen options here. No. So his ideas are, what I mean by nutty is that his ideas, like that of millions of other Americans, are ideologically detached from reality. Now, there's, it's a funny thing, the psychological defenses they can give. Even if this guy were to be shown to be a true psychotic, as I say, he's going to have a hell of a time with any kind of psychological defense to this case, an insanity plea, something like that, because he lays out his motives very carefully, tells us why he did this, why he wanted to not have collateral damage in this case, his intelligent plans and executing it. And then his ideological outburst kind of tells you his motive. But let's say he was a psychotic. It does not matter. It does not matter. He was ideologically stimulated, and nuts like this will be, if he is a nut, or ideologically stimulated, because I don't think most of these people fawning over him would ever have the guts to. But look at their admiration of him. They wouldn't actually pull a trigger, but they admire him for the courage, you see, of pulling the trigger. They're giving it moral sanction. They morally believe the same crap this guy believes. And it is ideology that motivated him, no matter how crazy he might have been. He was conditioned. As Ayn Rand said, he's the conditioned robot of university education today. And more than that, the ideological material you'll find all over the internet justifying violence in various forms. As you pointed out, when murder happens to innocent Israelis, the first thing the left will do, it's like a patella reflex, will blame the victim and try to morally justify violence. And what we have is a world in which the idealists, and I'm going to put that in quotes, scare quotes, these idealists are advocates of initiating violence against innocent people, even heroic people like Mr. Thompson. And they justify, they're absolute justifiers of violence. This includes AOC, the congresswoman, who said that as far as she's concerned, you have to understand, Razi, that people regard the denial of an insurance claim as violence. Would they regard it as violence under socialized medicine if they didn't get all the treatment they wanted just as fast as they wanted it?
When wokeness started rising, one of the things we would hear a lot is words are violence, and that was being said to justify actual violence. Because if
Right.
words are violence, you have the right to respond to them with violence, and so yes, the left does love violence. It promotes violence. Its whole ideology is an ideology of violence, whether it's committed by individuals or by the government. And Solving Politics says in the chat, maybe the homicidal pro-Palestinian crowd moved on to another psychopath. No, there's enough love from the left to go around to all murderers. And yesterday on the Daily Objective, we were talking about a video that Owen Jones did recently about Syria, blaming the Jews, of course, for what happened there. Or what is happening, or basically saying that the Jews are the villains there. I don't think he blamed them for no, actually, there was a mention that maybe
Yeah,
maybe
I think
Israel
he
was
did.
involved. But anyway,
He did,
so
Rossi, but I think he did.
I was watching Owen Jones doing a video about Luigi Mangione, and he starts it by saying, to law enforcement and YouTube people, I'm not justifying murder. And of course, the rest of the 13 or so minute video, he celebrates this guy. But very early on, within I think 40 seconds or so, he starts talking about Israel. He starts talking about the Jews, and he starts talking about how the people who don't like this murder are also supporters of Israel. Yes, Owen, that is consistent. Just like you are consistent, you are consistently supporting any murderer, any dictator, anybody who oppresses and causes suffering and death. You are on their side. People who are against that are often consistently against that, and that is something to note here. I was I was reading through a post by Novara Media, a left-wing media outlet here in the UK, and they were celebrating, in a sense, Luigi Mangione, and I was reading some of the comments, and I was just scrolling through, and of course, every single comment that I read, I didn't click replies and so on, but every single comment that I read was positive and had many, many likes, and one of them Actually, several of them mentioned that this is maybe the first step. One of them said something like, "It only takes one person to spark a revolution or whatever." Um, and this is something that we should take seriously, because again, it doesn't have to be the left, sitting together somewhere and organizing this. It has to be one other person saying, "I'm inspired by that so much that I'm going to do more than just post topless pictures of this guy and say how I want to do him. I'm going to actually go and do what he did to somebody else." And,
Yeah.
imagine if that happens once or twice, that will actually start something that I think
What a
will.
perverse world that Owen Jones lives in which the heroes, because they in targeted ways took out Hezbollah and their leadership, made possible the liberation of Syria. I don't know where it's going to go from here, and I'm not terribly hopeful, I know, but made possible the downfall of the murderous, evil Assad regime. Rather than praising Israel for bringing down an evil dictator, helping make possible the sudden collapse of one of the evil regimes on this planet, the Assad regime. Similarly here, and it doesn't have to be just on the left either. Oh God, is it despicable? I mean, on Piers Morgan's show, one of his guests the other day was saying she had felt joy. Joy. Now, good for, I mean, I don't always agree with Piers Morgan, as you know, but at least Piers pushed back on the guest who said she experienced joy. Would you experience joy if all these other CEOs got it? But the point is that she was saying on television that she experienced joy, but it's not confined to the left. Today, under Trump, for example, the Republican Party has moved in such an anti-business, anti-corporate direction. All you had to do was listen to the Republican convention this year, and you can tell that big business, big pharma, they want, speaking of Ayn Rand's article, America's Persecuted Minority, Big Business, 60 years ago, she wrote this. And who's now advocating the use of antitrust laws against big tech? It's Republicans. Republicans who are the advocates of non-objective laws against big business, big pharma, big tech. All you have to do is put big in front of it. And
Well,
that's
actually, there was a big union leader, right, in the Republican
yeah,
convention
the
endorsing Trump, which
Teamster.
which was then people were celebrating that on the right, saying, "Look, finally, they always endorse." That's not something to celebrate. These are bad people, generally speaking. The
No,
big
no.
unions,
The
yeah,
Republican Party has lurched towards the labor left. What used to be the labor left in my country is now the position articulated officially by the Republican Party. So it isn't just, and what do they want to use the antitrust laws for? They say to end censorship in private social media. No, they want to use the antitrust laws to engage in censorship themselves. So, no, we've lost any defense, any intelligent defense of individual rights, any even nominal such defense. It's not confined, unfortunately, to the left. Both sides are sort of chiming in their hatred of big business. And no, of course, obviously, it's the killer who is the only one who's the criminal who should be punished for it. But all of these
well,
people are creating the atmosphere that makes all of that possible.
yeah, and we have a super chat about that, which I will get to in a second. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Thank you, Wes, for the super chat. And thank you, Bull Moose, for the super chat. Bull Moose asks, if Trump was accused of inciting January 6th, could the politicians endorsing this man face something similar since it's also inciting violence? I don't think so.
Think so, but the point is that at what point, look, it's free speech, even if what you're saying is ghastly and would in some secondary way lead to violence. It's true.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
advocate
yes, and
Marxism
Trump did incite violence on January 6th. He told
specifically
these people
with
to go
this.
there. So if somebody says, "Look, it's
Yeah.
not just United Healthcare, it's this other company, and this is where their CEO is at the moment," and that's something different. But
But
no,
what's interesting is that violence on each side, the left will complain about right-wing violence, the right will complain about left-wing violence. Neither of them understands the evil of force, the initiation of physical force, and will end up justifying truly evil crap because of their failure to understand the morality of the situation of force. And that's what it really comes down to. An analog would have been if someone was egging on, January 6th analog would have been if someone was egging on this Luigi monster to do his murder. I know of no such thing. He appears to have acted alone, but he didn't really act alone. There is this ideological atmosphere that fueled it, made it possible. And you could see all the praise of this guy, the loving on this guy. And that is a sign of not psychological disturbance per se, but ideological disturbance, which in effect is self-induced psychosis, self-induced detachment from reality. And that's what we're suffering under. We're suffering in a world in which intellectuals, the media, politicians are living in an alternate reality, detached from the actual facts, where both sides can justify their own violence and both sides can attack the violence on the other side, as if violence is okay, as if that's the correct way to settle disputes among human beings. Look, if I never get that approval for my back treatment, I will have continued back pain for the rest of my life. It is no one's moral obligation to fix that for me. I am fortunately in the 21st century where I have enough medical technology that might actually treat it. I am grateful to those scientists, to those business people that make it possible for me to access that kind of treatment. No one owes it to me. If I were to say that, if I were to go so far as to say, yeah, let's go kill some of the people who make that possible for me, I would be the parasite. It's not the CEO who's providing you the healthcare and making a profit on it. He gets to earn a living too, you know. No, you're going to blame him because he is what? Actually giving you a healthcare option. That is truly evil across the board, no matter how you look at it. And no one's got a right to healthcare, ladies and gentlemen. People do have a right not to get murdered simply for doing their job.
Yeah, and you certainly don't have a moral right. And in countries where you have a legal right, like the UK, I was talking about this Owen Jones video. He talks about the NHS, and that is really, we talk about how Owen Jones assumes his audience is not intelligent and not informed. And anybody who's had any medical treatment in the UK and anywhere else in the West knows that the UK is third world when it comes to healthcare, and it's because it is so government controlled. In the UK, you do actually have, death panels and so on. You have people, bureaucrats deciding whether or not you are deserving of medical treatment by whatever criteria the government decides. Thank you, Yotam, for the super chat. Yotam says, welcome back, Razi. Thank you. And he also says, James, I recommend Dr. Sarno. Before there's no first name, but we'll look him up. By the way, before we go to the reality show, tomorrow the Daily Objective is at a special start time of 6:30 UK time instead of 5:30. That's 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 Pacific. We will be live from the Ayn Rand Center UK London Christmas party. I will be interviewing Keith Weiner on Bitcoin. So that is tomorrow. But the reality show that follows, we will be talking about Candace Owens again. And Candace Owens had somebody on a couple of days ago to talk about the USS Liberty, every anti-Semite's favorite conspiracy theory that the Jews decided to, kill some Americans on the way when they were fighting a war for their survival. But she gave details, and we're gonna go through those details. Unlike past episodes about Candace, where we made a point of not going through every bullshit conspiracy theory she pushes, which are sometimes multiple within a sentence. This time we are going through the claims, and we're gonna compare them to what actually happened on that day.
That woman is a vile anti-Semite.
Yeah.
My God, she seems to outdo herself every time she opens her mouth. In any case, my last thought on this is please do check out Ayn Rand's article, America's Persecuted Minority, Big Business. It can be found in her book, Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. Check out Leonard Peikoff's article, Medical Care is Not a Right. We objectivists have a distinct position on this, but it seems we are alone in our consistent opposition to the initiation of force and violence against the innocent. And that's
I quickly want to say, Davy Boy says in the chat, Candace now thinks LBJ was of Jewish origin. So I don't know if she said exactly that, but she did very much. Well, actually, you know what? Let's leave it for the reality show. We're going to start with a clip from towards the end when she goes kind of further into conspiracy theories, just to show the audience who she is. I'm sure you already know, but it's you're going to see more of her. Not as much as we've seen of Luigi Mangione, but more than enough. Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in a couple of minutes on the reality show.
Be safe.